you ever been in an argument with someone and then like an hour passes and you're like, man, I really wish I had said this, or if I had said this, I'd really gotten my point across. I'd really gotten through what I needed to say. And there's a reason for that, and I'm about to let you know why. And for anyone that is new here, I am an accredited somatic trauma-informed coach and a narcissistic abuse specialist. So if you've ever been in an argument with someone and then an hour later you're like, man, I wish I had said this, or this would have really gotten my point across. We've all been there. So I'm going to explain it to you using the hand model brain that is inspired by Dan Siegel. So this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. No, just kidding. But some people will get that, some people won't. If you get that, you're in the same generation. This is your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex. This area right here and down, this is your brain stem. So what you want to be doing, or when you're thinking, you know what, I wish I had said this, I wish I had said that, that is because you're back in your prefrontal cortex. Now, what is your prefrontal cortex? Your prefrontal cortex is where you can make your logical, rational decisions. That is where you do your best decision making. That is typically where you are safe and grounded. That is this. Now, when you are stressed, or when someone triggers, when you are triggered, or when you are dysregulated, you basically flip your lid, which means you are no longer thinking with your prefrontal cortex. So what are you thinking with? You're thinking with what is your thumb right here? That is your limbic system. That is what houses your amygdala and your hippocampus. So you have flipped your lid. You are no longer thinking logically. You are no longer thinking clearly. You are thinking from your limbic system, which is also known as your emotional brain. This means you are very quick to react. Your amygdala has been hijacked. That means you are thinking purely from emotions. And just think about two people that have their lid flipped, so to speak. Both of you are thinking from your emotions. You're not hearing clearly, you're not processing clearly, you're definitely not thinking logically. And this is a great method, a great example, something that you can show children this. I've shown my children this. This is something to really show, you can't get through to someone when they are in their limbic system. There's no amount of explaining anything to them, especially if you are also in that same system. Just to backtrack a little bit, prefrontal cortex, limbic system, this right here down is your brainstem. That is the most primitive part of your brain. That is what controls your responses, your survival responses. That is your fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses. Now, when you flip your lid and you are in your limbic system right here, your emotional brain, you are very quick to react. You are not thinking logically. So this is a good reminder if you are in a narcissistic abusive relationship, or you got out of one and you're beating yourself up. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why couldn't I see? And you have those moments where you did see it, but then they came back around, they got work, whatever it was, they activated your system again, and all of a sudden you're not thinking clearly. And that is not your fault. That is your body doing what it feels like it has to do to protect you in that moment. Your brain, it is always scanning the environment for cues of danger and cues of safety. This person's not safe. Your body knows it. But this is what gets a little confusing, is because it can actually kind of feel safe because you technically didn't die, you lived. So your brain likes that. That means since your brain likes to be able to predict the future, it likes to keep you in situations that it knows that it's okay. We survived this, so we're okay. Your brain technically, it doesn't really care if you're happy. That sounds awful, but it doesn't. That's on you to see if you're happy, to make sure you're happy. But your brain wants to keep you safe, and it has gotten so accustomed to this environment, being able to predict this person, their moods, any kind of shift, change in tone, change in body language. You've become so hyper vigilant to everything that's going on. That is your body trying to protect you. So as crazy as it might sound, this environment, when you don't know differently for so long, that actually feels safer. And when you actually go back to your prefrontal cortex and you're thinking about leaving and you're planning leaving, and then they come back around, it is triggering all of that all over again. And the thought of leaving, that's something different, that's something new. New to your nervous system feels very dangerous, feels very unsafe. Cognitively, you know that you deserve better. You know this is not okay. But your system doesn't know that yet. Your system thinks safe means you've been kept alive. That is all your body is always trying to do, is just keep you alive. So remember, it's easy to look back and say, you know what, or even just, an hour ago, oh, I wish I had said this. Or maybe it happens to you several hours later. That means it took you that long to come back to your your prefrontal cortex. That means you've been functioning from your limbic system, your emotional brain, this part, for all those hours. That is not good for your system. That is constantly releasing that adrenaline, that cortisol. That is you being hypervigilant. That is you being stressed. That is you being dysregulated. That is you being triggered. And that's not good for extended periods of time. That is good when you need to survive. If you're in an environment that is constantly triggering this part of you, that means you are constantly in survival mode. What is that doing to your body? But I'm going to keep this short. This is more just to educate you on your limbic system. So this also helps you when you recognize, it could be a coworker, could be your child, could be a friend. You see that they got dysregulated, they flipped their lid, they're thinking from their emotional brain, this part right here. Now if you engage in that and you get triggered, that is two people going back and forth in their emotional brain. Remember, you are not thinking logically unless you're thinking from your prefrontal cortex. So it's just two people going at each other from your emotional brain. There's nothing that's going to come of that. There's no resolution. There's no anything. That's where I say power is when you pause, when you can step away. But when you're with a narcissistic person, a lot of times that's hard. They'll follow you or they'll disappear on you, which is going to activate you even more, trigger you even more, dysregulate you even more. How do you get back to your prefrontal cortex sooner? Regulation techniques, breathing techniques, strengthening your vagus nerve. There's different ways to do that. Again, this is not advice though. This is just general blanket statements, not giving advice. But the more that you can regulate yourself, the more that you can come back online or unflip your lid quickly and come back to your prefrontal cortex, the more you can actively do that over and over and over, the greater your window of tolerance is going to be for situations, especially if you have to go to court with someone that is a narcissistic abuser. That is what they're looking for when you go to court. Are you dysregulated? One of the things. The calmer you can be, the more regulated you can be, the better it's going to look for you. Not just look, but the better you're going to feel being in control over your emotions versus your emotions controlling you.